Hi, my name is Angela, and today we're going to learn how to sharpen a chisel using our bench grinder and a glass plate and some sandpaper. We're going to be starting at 80 grit, working our way up all the way to 1200 grit. Now the reason why we want to sharpen our chisels is because when we purchase our chisels from the store, they've already been milled down and manufactured. There could potentially be some defects, and that's going to result in a poor quality of cut and work. As we can see here, we already have some striations here. That could cause us to catch on our material and cause tears, which is definitely not what we want to happen. There's also a chance that we could be bellied or we could be cupped. Now, if we're bellied, not too bad. Cupped, we're going to have a lot of problems because we want to make sure that our chisel can glide smoothly over the wood as we're chiseling it away. What we're going to do here in a couple steps, we want to make sure that we actually create a flat bottom, at least at the end or at the cutting edge of our chisel. That way it will glide smoothly over as we go. I have one example right here that I've already done previously, where we've got some different striations here. I've made them as I go along, and then I have about a mirrored finish right at the end here. In order to do so, what I did was I took my 80 grit sandpaper, placed it on my glass block, holding with one hand and using the other hand to provide even pressure. I'm just going back and forth. You're going to want to make sure that you apply even pressure all throughout, because if you start rotating the chisel side to side, you're not going to have a nice flat bottom. It's going to cause you a lot more problems as you go along. Now you can see I've created a bit more striations, but I have a lot of residue buildup from our chisel. So I'm just going to take my rag and clean it off. I'll be doing this about 30 to 40 passes or up to 1 minute, depending on the quality and how you want to be sharpening your chisels, and like how much of a mirrored finish that you wish at the end. You'll start with your 80, work your way up to 100, 220, 320, 400, 600, and up to 1200 to get that fine mirrored finish and to guarantee we have a nice flat base in order for our chisels to again glide over our material. Now, once we have that base done, it's all nice, flat, nice and shiny, we're going to move on to our bench grinder. Now there's a couple safety tips we have to go over before we start that up. Now I've already set my base here. What I like to do is I like to set the flat edge of our chisel at the top to our base, matching it up to the grinding wheel here. Now if you have to adjust, that's perfectly fine. But I like to follow the manufacturer's already created edge here to create a nice hollow grind. That would be this guy right here. It's to help when we're chiseling wood away for the wood to curl up and not to catch on our chisel. It also helps prevent our chisel from actually digging in and taking out too much material. And again, that causes tears. That's going to leave us with an imperfect cut. So I've come over to here. I've already checked my angle. I'm kind of happy as that sets. Now, we do have a guard here on our bench grinder, but we also need to make sure that we're wearing our safety glasses because sparks can fly. You'll see as we get this started, sparks will be shooting downwards, but there's always a potential chance of a spark flying up, so we want to be very, very safe. We're also going to make sure any of our hair is tied back, any strings on our hoodies are tucked in, any loose jewelry, bracelets, watches, or everything's out of the way and make sure that we don't want to have anything get caught in the wheel and pull us in. Definitely do not want that to happen. Excuse me. We also have a cup of water because when we are placing our chisel next to our wheel, there is a potential chance for it to burn. What we do not want our chisel to burn because that creates a weak point in our chisel that could then break off and we have to redo this whole thing all over again. So, first things first, what I'm going to want to do But I make sure I'm going to take my speed square or combination square, hold it up to the end here, you can see, and I want to check to see if I'm square. If I'm not, I'll take a pencil, make a little line at the end, and that'll be my guide for us to sharpen everything up. Now, when we get to grinding our chisel out, I'm going to place it so that I'm just meeting the wheel, and I can set my finger at the set height there and use it as a guide. I'll start half the chisel on half of the wheel and start working my way in circular motions. If I start at the very end, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to damage my wheel and damage my chisel. Then we have to start all over. So again, I'm just going to set up to the length here, and I'll go up and down as such. That way I can have full control of the chisel as I'm going. First thing what I want to do, dip my chisel in water just to make sure it's cool enough, because again, I don't want to have any burns going, and I'll start my machine up. Now, this is going to get very, very loud, so ear protection is also recommended. Before we walk away from our station, because this wheel does take a while for it to stop, and we don't want to have anyone accidentally walk by the machine and get caught in the wheel. That'll end up causing them to get hurt. We definitely do not want that. Now, if you're not happy with the passes, just keep going. I only did about 3 passes here to start with, but you can do as many passes as you need in order to create the result that you are desiring. Once I am all set and ready to go with that, I'm going to come back to my glass plate, and I'm going to start working on the micro bevel. That is this portion right here. We created our chisel angle at about 20 to 30 degrees. Our micro bevel is about another 1 to 2 degrees difference. Sorry, my apologies. 1 to 5 degrees difference, and it's going to be at the 1 to 2 mil end of our chisel. Now, in order to create our micro bevel, we're not going to start at 80 like we did with our back. We're going to start at 400 grit. That's this page right here. Now, in order to create our micro bevel, we have some options. One way we can do is holding on our glass plate with our sandpaper. What we'll do is we'll angle it. As such, we'll match the angle to what we created on the hollow grind with our bench grinder. And then what we'll do, squeezing our hand, we'll be pushing down with our finger, and that pushes the handle of our chisel into our wrist. And that creates our slight degree change for our micro bevel. And from there, we'll just keep doing multiple pulls. So, I'll set my angle as such using my hand. Quick squeeze, and see how I'm pushing down here. This is causing the handle to push up into my wrist. I've now locked this in place. I want to make sure that I am not rotating my wrist, because that's going to cause us to actually round over and dull the end of our chisel, and we got to start all over again. So as you can see here, I'm just going to get started up here, like so, and I'm just going to do some pulls as we go. You can see how I'm not moving my wrist, and I'm actually locking my arm in place, so all I'm doing is pulling with my shoulder. I could also pull with my hips if I feel necessary, but you have options. Now, this is your first time starting out, so you can reset the angle every single time after you do a pull. So reset, squeeze, pull. Reset, squeeze, pull. Now you'll do this again for about 30-40 pulls or up to a minute as you go along. Now, I've created a little bit of a burr here from the micro bevel. In order to fix that, all we have to do is holding the chisel like we did before when we were working on our back here to create a nice flat back, shiny mirrored finish. Even pressure, and I'm just pulling back. That's gonna get that last burr done and over with. So we have a nice smooth edge. Once I'm done with the 400, I'll then continue on with my 600. And each time after every grit change, you'll flip your chisel over, pull back to get that little bit of a burr out. When you're done, you should have some chisels that look just like that, a nice micro bevel on them, and now you're ready to start chiseling away some wood. Thank you.